Hey everybody, Sean here from the Black Page, and today we're talking with the legendary Bill Cobham. Bill, great to see you and hear you and be talking to you today.
Cool.
Um, so of course in my intro, the legendary Bill Cobham, and I'm sure that often, Bill, you don't feel like a legend, but what does that evoke for you when you hear that term, or that used in context with you comparatively? I'm sure when you've listened to Coltrane or Miles, I'm sure you consider them legendary. What does it
Mhm.
evoke for you now as you enter another era of your life?
Um, I know it's a compliment. I take it seriously. It's a nice compliment. Yes. On the other hand, and the reason for it is that some people apparently feel that I've provided them with a path to travel that they feel that they'd like to, where they can accomplish certain things that they've seen me do. Glad to be of help.
Right,
And it also re- uh, reflects in another way on the fact that it is unfortunately for us in our society not that often that people share.
right,
So it sort of stands out. I'm glad that I'm on the right side of that equation and am able to at any time. I mean, if you see something you like, it's yours. It's not mine anymore. I already did it.
right,
So I got no problem with that. If it's actually the payment for the lesson is the fact that somebody's actually doing it again.
right,
And so, in a way, that it can evoke a kind of a legendary status in a way because it just doesn't happen that often.
right, right.
Otherwise, uh, I'd be just another guy on the street corner, man. No problem. Mm-hmm.
We met. Speaking of legends, we met a few years ago at the Cape Breton Drum Fest, and it was the
Oh, yeah.
Legends edition, and of course there was one number of great drummers there, and some legendary drummers, and good
Mm-hmm.
time definitely had by all. I was curious. I never got a chance to ask you there, but you were walking around. You actually had a camera, and you were taking quite a few photos, and it seemed like you were a bit of a shutterbug. Is that a hobby of yours? Have you been into that for a while?
Yeah, to be honest, I've been doing that since about 1963.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah.
So you've seen the whole barn door shutters to the digital revolution.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Have you used any?
Started out with a Yashica.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did. Wow. Yeah, I took photography. I
and
had
then you
an
missed me.
FG20 where you had to do like you had to know your aperture and f stops and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
have you considered maybe putting out a book? I'm sure you have some incredible photography. Have you ever considered maybe doing a photography book of sorts, or have you done one?
I would like to do that. I have considered it. I've had some showings
Oh,
in the
wonderful.
United States, but I haven't gotten a chance to. I keep editing in my head, but not anywhere else.
Right.
Darkrooms are gone. Not really. I mean, I'd love to get back into one, but the frightening part about darkrooms is that when I get in it, then it's very difficult to leave it.
Yes.
And days go by, and everybody thinks that I've been carted away by somebody, and in essence, I'm in a dark room,
Yeah.
place with only one red light. uh, but that's
And
okay.
anyone who knows about film would even understand what that red light means, right? So
Oh boy, yeah.
that's a bygone era, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I mean, I still love D76 and HC 110. It's no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah,
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 I could.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We used to use the Bezier enlargers, and they
Oh man,
yeah,
yeah,
that's going back a little ways, but
yeah. A little ways, but
yeah.
yeah, all good, all good.
What
Yeah.
got you into photography, Bill?
Actually, photography is like to me, it was a natural partner to the audio side of everything
Okay,
of the art. I was a terrible perspective person, so in terms of painting something I just couldn't get a handle on it. Or I didn't have the how can I put it? the patience
Right.
to actually draw and bring things into perspective in more two-dimensional size.
Okay, gotcha.
So I was able to, uh, I should say, satisfy my want to visualize things by using a camera instead.
Right.
And in the process, just sort of line things up so that anything that I heard sonically, or I would try to translate into what I saw visually,
Okay, I see. Yeah.
and vice versa. You
Right.
know, so they were great partners and have been all my life.
Yeah. You've often credited your parents as being very, very influential, obviously, in your musical career. They were musicians themselves. What do you remember the first time you discovered music or cognitively were aware of that you might like to play the drums, or that was kind of introduced to you?
Vaguely, because I think I was around 3.5 years old.
Wow.
But and that's about as far as back as I can remember. Drums have always been in the house.
Okay.
Piano, guitar,
Right.
people singing, music playing,
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah. It was a lifestyle versus a part,
Yeah, it's
the
just something
hobby.
that everybody in the house did somehow.
Right.
People always sang. There was always something going on. There was always an interpretation of this, that, or the other musically.
Yeah.
We learned. We listened to Basie. We listened to Ellington. We listened to the New York Philharmonic. We listened to the Boston. We listened to Tito Rodriguez, Tito Puente, blah blah blah. It just went
Wow.
on like this.
Wow.
So the friends were Dexter Gordon, Dizzy Gillespie. I mean, you couldn't kind of. I can't say get away from it because nobody ever wanted to.
Right.
It was just what happened in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Your father was a piano player, and what instrument did your mom play?
She sang.
She sang. Okay, wonderful. Um, and your parents played around New York. Is that correct?
My father did, not
Yeah.
my mother. She
Oh,
she was very kind of more the straight and narrow type, conservative, who sang in the church
okay.
mostly.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Gotcha. Yeah. What would you say when you look now, and now that you've been releasing these albums, sort of, they're dedicated to your parents, and there's a
Hmm.
it's a four-part series, correct?
Yeah, we
Um,
only got three yet. The other four, number four is on its
on its
way.
way, yeah. So
No,
Tales of
it's not
this.
released. It actually is. I'm just putting the material together now for it,
Oh, okay.
and we'll start to record next year.
Next year. So Tales of the Skeleton Coast is the latest installment of that.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
is each part speaking specifically to a time in your life that you remember about them, or is it a kind of a canvas on its own where that's just pieces of a bigger picture?
I think that it's now we're into the point where it's reflecting, not reflecting back on them, but presenting what they would have liked
Okay.
had they been here.
Right.
And because that the Tales from the Skeleton Coast is a pivotal recording in that it represents the last months that they spent on this earth, and the things that I kind of experienced that I shared with them.
Right.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So now, you never lose what you've got, but you continue to add things, and as you grow, as you get older, as I found, and it seems like I'm not alone. You you get wiser. You can get dumber, but you normally get wiser. You don't want to. You don't do the same things twice. If it's a mistake, it's a new mistake.
Right.
But you understand that it was a mistake and
Right.
why,
Right.
and you make the adjustments so that you can move on from there, and life goes on. And of course, you take things at a slower pace. You're more introspective. For me with the music, I'm like not just putting it out there like I was before. I'm being more critical of what I put out there,
Okay.
how it's constructed, why I would construct it that way.
Right.
What my point is in trying to get across in terms of communicating with the audience. More now every day, every second of every day that I live than I did before.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so when I play, if you reflect back to, let's say, Cobham Duke or Mahavishnu, is about 1,000,000 notes per bar.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, how can I get everybody to think that I'm playing 1,000,000 notes per bar when I'm in fact only playing 2?
Right.
But they represent the right pattern to imply what could go inside, and the pattern is not just a rhythmic pattern, but also the tonal equation that goes along with it.
Right.
Thus, a greater focus by me on the tonal character of each drum that I play on.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, so all of a sudden it's not thud 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 anymore, and brrr. It's like you listen to drrr, but I'm playing only the tones that need to be played to
Right.
give you the chance to play the rest in between.
Right. So you're the conductor of a percussive symphony.
In essence, yeah, I'm saying, you can go this way. All you have to do, here's your trigger, bang, and you got it.
Yeah.
And until the next note I play,
Right.
and you just fill in the gaps.
Right.
Much easier for me, and the whole idea is that, hey, we are using our imagination.
Right.
So in a way, as you listen to me, you become part of my band,
Right.
whether you like it or not. If you like what I'm doing, or you'll get up and leave because that's not what you imagine to have to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my objective now is to imply and be musically effective doing that, so that in essence I don't have to play as hard, and voila, I get everybody coming back for more because they were part of the band.
Right. I remember actually in the green room at Cape Breton, you were talking to Bernard Purdy about that and about some of the Mahavishnu stuff and the Benson stuff, and that had you to do it today, that the choices you would have made today, and it was very interesting to see the rhetoric between you. I mean, two very epic drummers, and both both in the groove and the chops industry. Talking about now, one of the songs that I've often sort of as a benchmark to my double kick prowess is I listen to Juicy and I try and emulate and try and watch you and cop what you're doing. When I think about double kick of that time, and specifically one of your mentors, Louis Belson, the way that double kick was approached a lot from my ear was either in triplets or duple meter. Nowadays I hear a lot of just speed, like just full on a wall of brrr. When you chose, Billy, to have 2 kicks, was the implication because you thought, okay, I just want to play more notes, or was you thought there was something artistically I could say with this instrument?
I felt that there was something artistically to say with 2 bass drums, especially if they weren't tuned in the same pitches.
Right.
That's first and foremost, because now they have 2 separate characters.
Yeah.
So you need to think about when you're going to play which bass drum. If you and so it's not just a sequential da 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 da.
Right.
Okay. It's a da 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 da. But da da. Do you want this note or do you want that note?
Oh, okay.
And in real time, what are these patterns? How are they going to be employed inside the other patterns that you're playing?
Right.
Okay. And so again, you're thinking from a base of tones, not rhythms.
Right.
The rhythms come afterwards. If you know which drum plays what sound, then it's when you select that drum to play that sound in relationship to the other drums that you have.
Right.
And now it to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing bop and do that 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 and do that. And so we're getting all these tones, and they are related to, if you want to go that route, to the tonality of the music that you're performing.
Right.
So now you're in harmony with everybody else. And so you have a specific harmonic and melodic voice that you contribute
Right.
to the table of ideas that each individual brings to the table to say, okay, we can do this or this and this. And everybody in real time is deciding, okay, fine, we can do, if you're going there, I'm going here.
Right.
And this is how it's going to sound. And when you play it, what drum you play enhances whatever those ideas are.
Yeah. Right. Good point. Yeah. And especially I think too, when someone, if a drummer plays a large kit, and I hear people say, oh, you don't need so many drums, and I often think, provided you can play them, I think that offers you so many more options than just a 4-piece kit. And I wonder if often some drummers are afraid of learning to play more melodically and think more melodically than just become a subversive sort of rhythm machine.
You can go farther than that, and believe that some drummers don't even think about doing that,
Right.
because they've never thought about it. It's not broken, so why fix it in their minds? And so what's to think of? That means they have to study theory, and it means they have to go and play piano. But they're a drummer,
Right.
you see, and they thinking of drummers as boop, 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 all the time,
Yeah.
playing on a membrane that just sounds like this, and they don't want to go away from that because they have enough trouble just dealing with that.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's number one. And then there are the guys who actually have heard it but don't know how to go about it, nor do they want to take away from the time that they need to be faster than, louder than,
Right.
to play longer than their peers. And
Yeah.
now these are the guys that are into it for sport.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's all they want to do, is to impress with hand speed or foot speed. But when to play them? Well, that's all the time. Or when there's a solo. And how do they get into it? Well, everybody stops. That's what solo says for them.
Right.
They're alone. And when they start again, that's when they play time,
Right.
so that the band can come in.
Right.
And that's the one-dimensional plane in which they work, and many of them are very effective at this.
Yeah.
God only knows what they're thinking in their minds in between. They want to be like, you can't even talk about Buddy Rich, but in essence, what everybody forgets about Buddy is that he's a great musician.
Yeah.
He was a great dancer.
Yeah.
He was a great actor.
Yeah.
He could sing. I mean, all of this came, and they went, wow, he's special. Hey, man, we all have that.
Yeah.
But it depends on what doors get open in the mind to allow us to enjoy those dimensions.
Right.
Sometimes it's just not there. You're not in that community. I've seen so many things being blessed as coming from a Latin American community or an Afro-American community, where drummers were part of the community as a group. So you had a bass drummer, a tumbao, a guy who just played a big giant conga, and then you had 2 other congueros, and all the drums were tuned differently, but everyone had a job. And when they all came together, it sounded like one drum, one language being spoken over and over again. This is what I try to emulate and present through my drum set.
Wonderful.
Okay, that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
And where I feel most comfortable. But and I feel I've been blessed because it was always there. I mean, that's what I experienced from a kid.
Right.
So that's what I thought everybody did that.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
doesn't like this.
Yeah.
And to find out the opposite, I went, get out of here. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially, I mean, like saying, I would admit I wasn't born into it, but until I took part in an African drum circle and then became part of an African drum band, you're just standing there with the June going open, close, and you're the bass drum, and that's all you do, and all of a sudden this melody and this voice comes up around you, and it's like, oh my God, and a light for me went on anyway. Yeah.
The thing about it is that there's somebody that's playing a very high pitched drum, they call it the quinto, or a very small djembe,
Yeah.
and they're speaking. In essence, technically, they're sending the equivalent of Morse code on a rhythmic bass.
Yeah.
That and they're just saying, like for instance, for me, I was in the Kalahari Desert. Actually, I was in Otoshapan, and I was going to a ceremony for people who were married, and I heard the patterns that were being played 30, 40 miles away because
Wow.
there's nothing out there to stop anything. As long as the wind's blowing in your direction, you hear everything
Yeah.
pretty much,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And some, for people who live there all the time. And the thing is that I thought they were down the road, okay, 4 or 5 miles away, and we kept driving. We kept driving, we kept driving. And then as it turned out, the whole group that had been playing there, they were invited and employed to play there by drum, and they lived at a village that was 40 miles away from where they had to play.
Wow.
And they knew about this a year before, and it was all presented to them by drums.
Wow.
So they acknowledged by drums, and then they came, and the whole objective was that they had to play for 5 days without stopping, because if you stopped, it was bad luck.
Right.
So you had about 11 guys who played from morning till night for 5 days.
Incredible.
Did not stop all night. Some people in this crew was playing, and they kept playing, and they're playing. And I mean, it's amazing because when I shook the hands of some of these guys, it was like they had Noxzema cream on their hands. There was nothing wrong. There was no calluses, no nothing, and they had been playing. And it was beautiful to me because they were using the whole body. These guys were thin as rails, man, and they were very strong and very projected. They knew how to make the drums speak.
Yes. And very common in Fubuki Daiko to play large drums for long amounts of time. I mean, that's why they're in such a good shape, I guess.
I would imagine that has something to do with it.
So speaking of that, Billy, often you wear the headband, and to me, looks very reminiscent of a hachimaki ceremonial headband. Is there a connection there?
No, I'm just trying to keep the perspiration out of my eyes.
Oh, okay. There you
That's
go.
all. Nothing to it there.